What is my purpose? This question, perhaps more than any other, echoes in the silent corridors of the human soul. She assaults us at dawn, stares at us in the mirror on gray mornings, and whispers to us in moments of stillness. We have been taught to believe that life is a kind of treasure hunt, and that somewhere, hidden under layers of experiences and choices, there is an X that marks the place of our great and unique purpose. A singular calling, an overwhelming passion, a life mission that, once discovered, will fill all our voids, give meaning to all our struggles, and illuminate our path forever. For years, I was a treasure hunter, a devout, obstinate, and most of the time frustrated hunter. I read the books, took the courses, filled out the vocational tests. I changed jobs, cities, hobbies. I plunged into projects with an almost desperate fervor, always with the same question in my heart. Is this it? Is this my purpose? And each time the initial excitement faded and the feeling of emptiness returned, I felt a little more lost, a little more broken. I would look at the people who seemed to have found their X, the artist immersed in his work, the doctor saving lives, the activist fighting for a cause, and wonder, what's wrong with me? Why does my big revelation never come? I lived for a long time believing that the purpose was a lightning bolt that would fall from the sky. And since lightning never struck, I concluded that maybe I wasn't worthy of it. That, perhaps my life was destined to be a series of disconnected chapters, without a central plot. It was at the bottom of this valley of disillusionment, just as I was about to give up the hunt, that I stumbled upon the secret. And the secret was shocking in its simplicity. The secret was that I was looking on the wrong map. The secret was that purpose was not a treasure to be found. It was a house to be built, with the tools I already had, in the exact place where I already was. Before we can build, we must first understand the false foundations on which we have tried, for so long, to build our meaning in life. The idea of purpose destiny is one of the most seductive and paralyzing mythologies of our culture. It is fueled by films that show the hero having a life-changing epiphany, biographies that romanticize the journey of great visionaries, and a self-help industry that sometimes sells the idea that there is a magic formula for discovering your passion. This mythology, while well-intentioned, creates a number of devastating pitfalls. The first and most common is the paralysis of grandeur. The pressure of finding the great purpose is so overwhelming that it often prevents us from doing anything. We devalue small stocks and genuine interests because they don't seem grandiose enough. How can this little hobby of gardening be my purpose? We ask ourselves. And while waiting for the epic call, we remain motionless, stuck in a limbo of inaction, feeling that nothing we do is good enough. The second trap is the devaluation of the present. Treasure hunting puts us in a state of mind of not yet. Happiness, meaning, fulfillment are always in the future, at the moment when we finally find the X. This makes us blind to the meaning and beauty that already exist in our lives, here and now. We treat the present as a waiting room, an unimportant prelude to the great act to come. And in this process, life, which only happens in the present, passes us unnoticed. The third trap is comparison anxiety. We look at the stage of others' lives, especially through the curated lens of social media, and see only the final act. We see the author with the published book, the entrepreneur with the successful company, the traveler at the top of the mountain. We do not see the years of doubt, the small steps, the hundreds of actions without apparent purpose that built that reality. And when we compare our messy behind-the-scenes process with the final spectacle, others, we feel hopelessly late, inadequate, as if we had missed the start of the race. My own hunt was a painful testimony to all these pitfalls. I changed careers 3 times before I was 30, each time with the feverish hope that this time it's for real. I dove headfirst into every new field: marketing, design, wellness, soaking up everything I could, working tirelessly. And each time the same cycle repeated itself. An initial honeymoon, full of novelty and promise, followed by a slow, gradual erosion of enthusiasm, until I found myself in the same place again, feeling the same emptiness, with only a new title on my resume. I became a collector of beginnings, an expert in first chapters. But I didn't know how to write the middle of the story because I was always looking for an ending that would justify everything. I was exhausted from searching, from waiting, from being disappointed. The purpose, I concluded, was an exclusive club to which I had not been invited. The turning point, as so often happens, came not from an answer, but from the exhaustion of asking the same question. It was after my last big bet. A new job at a company that seemed on paper to be the perfect combination of creativity and social impact. That's it, I thought. Finally, the missing piece of my puzzle. 6 months later, I was sitting at my desk, staring at a spreadsheet, and the familiar feeling of apathy enveloped me like a cold fog. The work was interesting. The People were amazing. The company's mission was noble. But the lightning had not struck. The epiphany had not come, and I felt a quiet despair. I had exhausted my options. The map was blank. That night I came home and didn't try to fix the feeling. I didn't open a new self-help book. I didn't look for a new online course. I just surrendered. I accepted my defeat. I sat quietly and for the first time admitted to myself, maybe I don't have a great purpose. Maybe my life doesn't have a big, unifying why. And maybe I have to learn to live with it. There was an immense pain in this admission, the pain of abandoning a lifelong dream. But underneath the pain, there was also a strange and unexpected lightness. By giving up the pressure of finding the answer, I felt free. Free from the need to be extraordinary. Free from the obligation to have an epic story to tell. And it was in this space of surrender, in this vacuum of ambition, that the question changed. It has ceased to be the grandiose and paralyzing, what is my purpose in life? And has become something much smaller, simpler, and infinitely more powerful. What does it matter now? The next day at work, still feeling the weight of my disappointment, a younger colleague approached my desk. He was visibly stressed, struggling with a task I knew well. My old self, the hunter on purpose, would have seen it as an interruption, a distraction from my own more important quest. But my new self, the surrendering self, simply saw it. He saw his frustration, his need. And without thinking, I said, "Hey, it looks like you're struggling. Want help? I have 10 minutes. We sat together. I didn't give him the answers. I just asked him a few questions, shared a little of my experience, helped him organize his thoughts. In 10 minutes, the knot in which he was trapped fell apart. The tension in his shoulders disappeared, replaced by a smile of relief. "Wow, thank you so much," he said. "You saved my day." And at that moment, something extraordinary happened inside me. In that small act, which had nothing to do with my great purpose, which would not earn me any promotion or recognition, I felt a glimmer, a flash of meaning, a sense of usefulness and connection that was more real, more solid, and more fulfilling than any grandiose ambition I had ever pursued. Those 10 minutes were my true epiphany. The secret I had searched for all over the world was right there, in a small act of service. The secret was that I was asking the wrong question. I was obsessed with the question, what does life have for me? What is the great plan for my self-realization? But the question that generates purpose is the opposite. What do I have to give to life? How can I be useful now to the person or task that is right in front of me? Purpose is not something we receive. It's something we offer. This was the first and most fundamental revelation. Purpose is born of contribution. He is not focused on ourselves, but on our impact on what is outside of us. It is a radical displacement from the self to the other. And this displacement is liberating because it takes us out of the prison of our own self-obsession. When your focus is on finding your purpose, you're constantly measuring and evaluating yourself, your passions, your abilities. The pressure is immense. But when your focus is on, how can I contribute? The question becomes much lighter and more practical. It can be applied at any time in any situation. You don't need a special job title to contribute. You can contribute to a conversation by listening with full attention. You can contribute in your building by holding the door for a neighbor. You can contribute to your family by washing the dishes to ease someone's burden. You can contribute to your work by offering help to a colleague, even if it's not your responsibility. Each of these small acts of contribution is a seed of purpose. And when you start planting those seeds, your day, which once seemed like a barren landscape of meaningless tasks, begins to turn into a garden. Purpose ceases to be a distant destination and becomes the very act of taking care of your little piece of the world, with the tools you have, right where you are. The search for the extraordinary left me empty. The practice of the ordinary, with the intention of serving, began to fill me. The discovery that purpose was born from contribution was the foundation, the cornerstone of my new home. But a foundation, no matter how solid, is not a house. I needed to learn how to build the walls, the ceiling, to fill the space with life. And that led me to the second pillar of secrecy. Purpose is not just in what we do, but fundamentally in why and how we do it. Purpose is a function of intention. In my old life as a purpose hunter, I was obsessed with the what. I believed that there were professions and activities that were intrinsically purposeful, doctor, artist, volunteer, and others purposeless. Administrative work, household chores, daily routines. My quest was an attempt to jump from one category to the next. The result was that most of my life, the vast landscape of my daily life, was considered a wasteland of meaning. a time to be endured while I had not found my true calling. The silent revolution that began with that act of helping my colleague taught me something radical. There are no tasks without purpose. There are only tasks performed without the presence of a purposeful intention. The same action can be a burden or a sacred ritual, depending on the awareness we bring to it. I started practicing this as an experiment. I decided that for a week, I would try to infuse the smallest of my tasks with a higher intention. The laboratory for this experiment was my own home, a place I often saw as a source of endless obligation. The pile of dishes in the sink, for example. For years, it was a symbol of boredom, a thankless task to be dispatched as quickly as possible. In my new practice, before turning on the tap, I would stop for a moment and set an intention. My intention is to create an environment of order and calm for me and my family. This act of washing the dishes is an act of care for our home, an act of love. Suddenly, the task was transformed. The warm water in my hands, the smell of soap, the sound of dishes cleaning themselves, it all became part of a peacemaking ritual. Action was the same, but my experience of it was completely transmuted. I wasn't just washing dishes, I was cultivating a shrine. I took this practice to work. There were weekly reports that I despised. The definition of meaningless work was tedious, repetitive. My old approach was to do them in a hurry and resentment. With the new approach, I stopped and asked, what might be the greater intention here? And the answer came. My intention is to create clarity for my team. This report, when done right, helps my colleagues make better decisions, feel more secure and aligned. My act of organizing data is an act of service to my team. The spreadsheet is no longer a prison of numbers and has become a tool of empowerment for others. The what has not changed, but the why has changed everything. This practice of setting an intention became the golden thread that I could weave into any fabric of my day. Going to the gym stopped being a punishment for what I ate and became an act of gratitude for my body, an investment in my energy so that I could better serve the world. Responding to an email from a customer is no longer an obligation and has become an opportunity to make someone feel heard and valued. Even the act of listening to a friend vent has been transformed. Instead of waiting for my turn to speak up and fix the problem, my intention became to create a safe space for this person to feel completely seen and accepted. The purpose, I discovered, is not a job title. It is a quality of presence. It's the energy you bring to action. And the beauty of this secret is that it gives us back all power. We no longer have to wait for the world to deliver us purposeful work. We can bring purpose to any job. We no longer need to seek extraordinary circumstances to feel that our life has meaning. We can infuse the most ordinary of moments with extraordinary intent. And in doing so, one's whole life becomes a fertile field for meaning. With contribution as my foundation and intention as my walls, I needed a method to continue to build and expand my home. This brought me to the third and final pillar of the secret. Purpose is not found in passive contemplation. It is revealed in action and active experimentation. My old self, the hunter on purpose, spent hours and hours thinking. I read, I reflected, I made lists of pros and cons. I was trying to think my way to the purpose. I believed that if I analyzed enough, the answer would eventually appear in my mind as a solved mathematical equation. The result of this approach was paralysis. I hoped for absolute certainty before committing to any path, and since absolute certainty never came, I remained at the starting point. The big change was the adoption of a new mantra. Action precedes clarity. We don't think our way to a new way of living, we live our way to a new way of thinking. Purpose is not an abstract idea to be discovered. It is a resonance to be felt, and you can only feel that resonance when you're on the move. So I started moving. But this time, the nature of the movement was different. It was not the desperate search for a final answer, but a curious exploration like that of a child. I adopted what I call the small experiment mentality. I gave myself permission to try new things, not because I thought they would be the purpose, but simply because I felt a spark of curiosity. I enrolled in a weekend pottery workshop, not because I wanted to become a ceramist, but because the idea of working with my hands intrigued me. I volunteered for a month at an animal shelter, not because I thought that was my life mission, but because I loved animals and wanted to understand what this work was like. I started learning a new language online, 15 minutes a day, not because I planned to move to another country, but because the sound of that language enchanted me. The secret here was the absence of pressure. They were low-risk experiments. If I didn't like it, I could just stop, without the drama of having failed in yet another search for purpose. And what I did during these experiments was the most important thing. I paid attention. I didn't pay attention to the result, but to my energy. I asked myself, how do I feel while I'm doing this? Do I feel energized or drained? Do I lose track of time or count the minutes to end? Does this activity expand me or contract me? Purpose, I learned, reveals itself through this energetic feedback. It is not a voice that cries out from heaven. It's a whisper in your body. It is the feeling of alignment, of being in the flow, of feeling that this activity somehow expresses an authentic part of you. Through these small experiments, I began to collect data about myself. I discovered that I loved creating things with my hands, that volunteer work nourished me in a way that no paycheck ever could, and that the process of learning something new for pure pleasure was an immense source of joy. None of these things was, in isolation, my great purpose, but together they were the clues. They were the golden threads. And as I began to weave these threads in my everyday life, a tapestry of meaning began to emerge. My purpose was not a single thing. It was the unique combination of my contributions, my intentions, and my energizing action. The great secret to living with purpose, the revelation that freed me from years of frustrated searching, is this: purpose is not a destiny to be found, but a quality to be cultivated. It is a house to be built patiently, day after day. We build it with the bricks of contribution, shifting our focus from what can I receive to what can I give. We decorate it with the furniture of intention, infusing even the most mundane of tasks with a why that uplifts it and fills it with meaning. And we expand it through curious action, using small experiments to discover what makes us feel alive, what resonates with our soul. The life of purpose is not reserved for a chosen few who have received a divine calling. It is available to all of us at all times. It is hidden in plain sight, disguised in the tasks of our daily lives, in the needs of the people around us, and in the whispers of our own curiosity. The secret to living with purpose is, paradoxically, to stop looking for it. It's to stop looking at the distant horizon and start paying attention to the ground beneath your feet. It's starting to build right where you are with the tools you have. Today, I invite you to a small and powerful experiment on purpose. Don't try to change your entire life. Just change your next action. Choose a task that you normally do on autopilot. It could be answering an email, preparing a meal, making your bed. Before you start, stop for 10 seconds. Set an intention to contribute to this task. Who or what are you doing this for? And as you perform it, pay attention to how you feel, to the quality of your presence. Just notice the difference. This is the first brick. And that's how the cathedrals of a meaningful life are built, one small brick at a time. What about you? What small action today gave you a glimmer of meaning or purpose, however fleeting it may have been? Share your discovery in the comments. Your story can be the inspiration someone else needs to start their own construction. If this reflection helped you see purpose in a new way, leave your like and subscribe to the channel. Together, we can continue to explore the architecture of a more meaningful life. See you in the next video. And remember, don't expect your life to give you a purpose. Give your life purpose.